Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. The stats are all positive this week, aren't they, ladies and gents? Liverpool take 3 points in Girona with a 1-0 victory. That's 5 clean sheets in a row. They've only conceded 1 goal in the Champions League. They sit with a perfect record, 18 from 18. And yet Arne Slot, bless him, was absolutely raging by the end of this one. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll talk about many things. And here to join me as ever is the man with the stats, the man that's going to see if Arne Slot's anger is justified or is maybe exaggerated. But this is weird, this one, because that game, it was just about winning and not getting injuries, yet people kind of seem like underwhelmed by it. But wasn't it just, before we get into the stats, mission accomplished?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think Everton had a say. The Everton postponement had a say on the selection. I think we can't get away from that. But I think it allowed us to go right. Let's go and put this Champions League to bed. But we've now done what we traditionally have got used to doing when we were in the group stage Champions League, which is make sure before Christmas you qualify. Job done. Right. So we've done that. Because the other two is a kind of, I think last night results pretty much confirmed it, isn't it? I think we've qualified.
Yeah.
And also, from reading a lot of the stuff, it doesn't really matter where you finish in the top 8. Yeah, it'd be nice to say we won the league and everything, but it doesn't matter. That has no impact on who you get on the next round. So basically, job done. We're through. Happy days. Another clean sheet is nice. But yeah, I think and there's no Dutch word. We've not heard anything yet. There's been no injuries as well, and probably some positives. Before we get into stats, is Ali came back, and that's a big positive for me.
Yeah, I think there's the biggest positive you can. This just shows that there's levels to the game, because Keller has been largely brilliant, but Alisson demonstrates in 90 minutes why he's the world's best. And for us, there's no debate at all. So we'll get into it then, Bart. I am intrigued to see this, because I'm just, as we're loading this for the stats, I just want to give you a snippet of what Arne Slot says for the backdrop to see if the stats back this up. Said, there wasn't enough intensity. There were so many things I didn't like. There were times in the first half where we weren't pressing hard enough and they could almost just take it from the back right through to a shot against our keeper. He was then asked about the second half and kind of gave a half shrug and a smile of rage that said, yeah, the second half was slightly better. We won't give it any more than that, because I am intrigued to see, especially first half, second half, do these stats back up what he's saying?
I mean, I won't go into massive detail because guys can get all statified on UP when that's out next week when we match it up with the Fulham game. But I think what I will look at is the half split, which is always in the stats packs for you. Because I think first half, I think it was fair to say, I personally, and before I looked at any of the data, I thought without Ali, we're going 1-0 down. Personally, I thought we were a little bit. The game was a bit too even, should we say? So, and equally, if you look here, we've got total shots was 9-8, so pretty much even on the shot count. On target, they had more shots on target than us. But then you start looking at where we took our shots, and we had 8 in the box and they had 5. So you kind of start thinking about that, and then maybe I was a bit harsh because we had 3 big chances to their 1. Okay, fair enough. They created more XG in the first half. But we created more threat. We just didn't convert it. So that was probably where Slot starts talking about, threat. Remember, EPV is our on ball, what you expected to create in terms of XG from that position. So we were well below our best in that first half, whereas they were in and around the 120 mark, 120%, which is kind of a good wheelhouse to be in. Second half, it almost turns around a little bit. So we outshoot them again, not by a lot, but we flick it around. We have 4 shots on target to their 1. We only let them create 0.3 XG, and we go up to above 1. Now, a lot of that's penalty, but equally we do a lot with it. Our threat goes to nearly 100. That we drop theirs down to 50, so we cut their threat to XG conversion down. I think you could look at those 2 halves and go, yes, we changed something at half time, and it had an impact, right? Now, the other thing to do, because I'm not going to go too statty on this one because we never do, because it's a bit lower down, not in a bad way. If we look at our pass map, so typically what we do is we have first half, second half. So first half top, second half bottom. We look at Girona, I think it is. They first half pass map. They're using a left winger, which we expect, which was, you could see with your eyeballs, that was not happening. And their 10 was in and around zone 14, which is an area we don't want to let them get into. Right half wasn't working for them. And then if we look at the impact we had second half, you look at these connections go down to a single line rather than a double thickness. It shows you we limited them, and we also pushed their 10 right back into their half. Where we pushed it up. So that's the impact of us on the ball, off the ball, should we say? Now on the ball, first off, really weird pass map for many reasons. All the lines are thick. Okay, great. Loads of connections. You might be thinking, all right, brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's in 6 boxes on the pitch. Like, if you're playing a deep block, which is what they were doing, you need to get width and depth, which means you've got to use a 9 by 5 grid rather than a 3 by 2.
Yeah.
To be really pedantic, it's that simple. If you need to break blocks down, you need to move it quickly. You need to stretch that block out so that the gaps appear to slide back into it, which is typically what we've been doing really well. The first half, they stopped us from doing that. Worryingly, again, second game in a row, Nunes has got no connections. At least he was in the 9 position this game, though. If we look at what we did second half, you can see width and depth. Yeah, so we dropped second half dropped slightly deeper on average. So we started using a 3 by 5 box. Yeah, which is a lot better. So you get that width and depth going on with it. Mo's out in his typical area to receive, to then drive in. Yeah, and then you've got Diaz out on the left. Again, Nunes still unconnected. But so a change in second half in terms of that on ball approach. You can see, and I think you and I were chatting through the game. We largely that second half, we kind of had them in that mode of we'll just keep moving the ball in their half. And it was only when we made an error, which our passing rate success went down from 93 to about 88. I think second half, not a lot, but in the key moment, it'll not come off. They would break. Okay, so that's a different moment from the first half, which was a bit basketball-y. Yeah, it was a bit like, we'll attack, you attack. You attack. Oh, yeah, they're going in, you will attack. Yeah, and that's never what Slot wants to do. Any other key elements to pick out? I think the other thing he used, so the other note to note, a tactical change for us is here. This little plot here shows you long ball rate and what they are. So red is progressive. So in the first half, we were doing a similar City tactic. So we were trying to fizz it out into these areas here. Yeah. So there's a big triangle, if you like, going in behind the fullbacks, left and right. But as we saw, it wasn't very successful because on the ball and finally there, we weren't able to capitalise on being in those areas. Second half, we kept it a little bit shorter, but we were stretching it by going along. And as you can see, our long ball rate slows down. Okay, our plenty of box touches increased in the second half as well decreased second half versus first. So again, a little bit of tweaks on the ball. But I think some of the things that Slot wasn't happy to, and I think when he talks about intensity, he means off ball. Should we say off ball? I think. So that's typically measured in our PPPDA. So the lower the line, the better. Okay, so theirs is a bit erratic, which they're in around. So this is a defensive action per pass. So they were allowing us, if we look past 50 minutes, they started to allow us 6 passes on average before they made a defensive action. We'd got things sorted, so we were down to about 4. Okay, so that's not bad. Yeah. If we break down our half splits, which is down here. So first half, this is what they were doing. So again, this low block here, this is typically what they were doing. Second half, they went even deeper. So we forced them back. And then they had sporadic outside and they tried to target this left side. So they were targeting CJ and Nunes in this area here to try to pick a pocket here. But generally speaking, you can see that we forced them into the defensive dirt, which is good. So we've got more pitch to play in and we brought up and we allowed depth that way. So that's a way we looked at it. If we look at what we were doing, and I think first half, it's a little bit gone from being the coordinated attack where pressing, which was against City. Remember, we had 2 really high volume in the half spaces. To, I have to be honest, there's a couple areas like this one's at 10, 12, but the rest of them are just kind of a bit 2, 3%. It's not a pattern you generally see from a slot side. Second half, tightened it up, went a bit more targeted. So we've gone targeted their left back, and we've targeted their right side, and we kind of left the centre. So we changed our approach a little bit second half, not massively, but a little bit of a tweak. So again, if we were going there, we try and nick it, come across, and that matches up with the passing maps where we're a bit longer and wider. So you can see some definite tweaks to the system, should we say, going forward. And that ultimately pressure, I would suggest, led to the penalty, which I saw some people going, well, what's that been given for? But I think it's pretty clear he stamps on Diaz and gets a penalty. But it is what it is in today's game. But yeah, I think the other pleasing thing for me was, as a positive, we only let them create from regular play. So whereas previously, when we're having a bad moment, we'll allow it to create from free kicks, corners, a whole shebang, which was Newcastle. They had a very different pattern, whereas Girona, we only let them have. So they didn't create anything from corners, nothing from any other set plays, and no fast breaks. So that's a positive for me. And for us, we had 5 different ways of creating XG. So that's a good. So there are some positives. Yeah, but I can understand where Slot's coming from. That first half display, particularly, we talk about stress on a system in UP. So everyone has a pattern of play, and typically you want to go and cause their pattern of play stress, their system stress, to then create opportunities to create chances. Actually, we didn't do any of that in the first half because we were so compact in this area. They were basically saying, "Yeah, we're happy with you there." Second half, because we made the little bit of changes, we had it added depth and width. We were able to create some stress to their system. It wasn't great, I'm not going to lie to you, but it was better than the first half. So, yeah, that's probably from a team perspective where we are with the stats.
Kind of makes sense, actually, a little bit now what you were saying and Slot's reaction, because as he's telling me that, we're looking at that map and we're thinking, dear God, we're trying to almost force it through the eye of the needle first half. Absolutely playing perfectly into Girona's hands. Girona probably can't believe the look. Liverpool were trying to force everything centrally instead of stretch it like we normally do in considered play. And as you said, we were just letting them get so high up the pitch. And when you saw like that, especially that number 10 getting in the zone 14, you think of the chances that Alisson had to save when Hill, Polanc and others as well. It does bear out. But at the same time, like you said, smart changes in that second half. It's stretched across the pitch, isn't it? It's more like Liverpool. And most importantly, which you probably think will be in Slot's brain, we are going to be more intense off the ball, which it looked like it happened, if I'm right. We pushed them right back at the same time. We said, literally, you are getting out our area. We are going to control this game. And I think you said, didn't you, the sort of XG, the chances went right down second half.
Yeah, second half. I mean, just to show you that push up, this is our touch zones for the go. So you can see there that this is the shape we ended up being in. So our 2 centre halves are in and around the halfway line. And then we had width later on. So that's what we ended up being. But it took a long while to get to that position. And then we forced them to do this at the end of the game. Right? So they were controlled in a block. They ended up being quite a large gap down this channel. That would be our right channel. Because they were trying to double team on Mo. And then the left hand, they're asking Brian to do a hell of a lot of work there to cover the left hand side. But yeah, so that's just an impact on where we made them have touches of the ball.
Yeah, big changes there. And you could probably see that Slot made sure that message was crystal clear at halftime as well. No doubt will not have liked what he's seen there. And I am intrigued by this because when we talk about man of the match, who really sort of stood out in this, there's a few in my mind. And I know officially UEFA gave it to Robbo. He was the official UEFA man of the match. However, LFC, the official site, LFC TV, gave it to Alisson. So, probably intriguingly, stats-wise, who are you probably calling out for the player of the match for us?
It's always a tough one for me. I mean, So Robbo did, what did he do? So Jules, Robbo was 50%. So he's the best of our defenders. Aerials, he didn't compete for any, so that's fine. Gomez actually was the best in aerials. In terms of carries for Robbo, he had some progressive carries. Yeah, probably Trent beat him on that. They carried the ball more, but not into dangerous areas. If we look at EPV curation for Robinson, yeah, he probably created the highest percentage of our team EPV there at just short of 23%. I mean, that's Mo got nearly 30 the other game on his own, so you can imagine there's degrees to that. Trent is in and around 13%. So the two fullbacks being the token of that. If you look at his passing success, 29 for Robbo. So yeah, I think I could see why he got given man of the match for sure. There is some elements here where Alisson's pass success at 90%, not bad. On ball time, nearly 5 for us. He created nearly 3% of our EPV from goal from being a goalkeeper. And I would suggest, I can't see, I've got a post shot now, I've got it. But what he did defensively as well, Alisson for me was very close to being man of the match just because of the shots he saved. Some of the post shot, I think he showed nearly 0.5 or something, which is some incredible, some really good saves. He made semi-hard saves look easy, if that makes sense. Just as a comparison, I've done a wagon wheel for Robertson. That's his wagon wheel there. And just for reference for some Liverpool people who keep an eye on some other shows across AI, that is their left back, I believe, that we've been linked with. So not too dissimilar profiles, I'm being honest with you. Something to maybe keep an eye on. This guy performed above all the metrics for his position. Robertson for his position above on a couple and below on others. So yeah, there's merit in Robertson getting it. I'm not going to take it away from the guy, but personally, the way in which Alisson came in and did what he needed to do, I thought was pretty outstanding.
I struggled. It's almost strange because when you see the award, you never want to be sort of derogatory towards Liverpool players, and I don't think Robertson had. I think he was probably the best of the defence at large times that night, but Alisson was different class. And there was that shot from long distance, which had real power. He nearly caught it as well. I mean, if he'd have caught that, you'd have just ended the debate right there and then basically as well. So,
exactly.
So many ones to like. The only other one I wanted to ask you about, and it'd be interesting to see if the stats bear this out. The eye test, Bart, it looked like Ryan Grav did really well. I mean, the last game against Newcastle, it'd be the first one he's been taken off in the Premier League. And he just started probably leggy is the phrase, that people are applying. I'm not saying he was back to his absolute best we've seen this season, but he looked more like the regular Gravenberg. Do his stats look any good at all?
He had a 90% receiving, which is the best of second best of the starting midfielders. 11% of our EPV creation was come through him. So, yeah, not bad. 94, and then let's give him 95% pass completion. Some key ones, key passes, he made 1, which is the same as everybody else. He made 24 final third passes, which is good. 7 progressive. So, a fairly good on-ball performance. Nearly 10% of our time of possession he had. Let's look off the ball. 30% duel rate. Okay. And didn't compete for any aerials. Might not have had the opportunity to, just to say that's not me saying he didn't bother. I'm just saying he might not have opportunity to. Carries, what did he have? He had 47 carries with 38% of those in the final third. So, that's not a bad shout. Touches, middle third, 55% was dominant. Yeah, that's probably about right. Only 1 penalty box touch, but then he's playing the 6. So, I would say not a bad performance. Dom had a higher touch per minute rate of 0.5, whereas Grab at nearly 0.8. So that's a little bit of a difference. I probably would expect that to be the other way around because he's the 6. so he should be taking the ball off the players
Yeah.
to distribute. But yeah, I would say this is a better profile than Newcastle for sure, where he was. That wasn't a good night for Ryan.
Definitely. It's interesting, actually, when we're looking at those stats. And I am thinking because we always talk sort of wider trends and what's building, when we think about like how well we've done in recent games, the one where we loved analysing that City game, Real, all those types of things as well. Was this more just a case of solid, not spectacular from a lot of players?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I think there was a couple that were coasting's a bit harsh. I think there was a couple that were worried about getting a knock or coming back. There was a few. I've seen some people saying, "Oh, some players are a bit lazy," and the rest of it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that also what Slot was getting a bit annoyed about. But I think generally, I'm not saying we got away with one, but I would suggest they knew they could win that game.
Yeah,
they just needed to play for a period of time to create a chance and win that game. And when they got the lead, they just shut the game down. They just went fine. I mean, if you look at the game state, if I can just go back to that one, if we got a bit of time.
Yeah, just feel like we managed it well later on.
Yeah, it's the game state. Once we got in the lead, we let them have 0.1 XG.
Wow.
So we literally went, we're done now. We're going home. You can do what you want to do, but you ain't coming in there.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, away in the Champions League, clean sheet will take words like solid, professional all day. And as you mentioned, Bart, there is bigger fish to fry and bigger things coming up. There's no two ways about it. So there you go, ladies and gents. A lot to like from Girona. Now, as you move on to this one, Fulham are one of those weird teams. If someone said to you, describe me a mid-table really good team, I would probably say Fulham. They're that type of nature. They're not the most exciting. And funnily enough, if we look at some of their retail stats, Bart, there you go. In 10th at the moment there, Fulham, literally one of those teams but they do carry threats on the surface, it looks. I mean, away from home especially, in the last 5, they've beaten Palace. They got a draw against Tottenham, although people will disagree whether that's a good one recently. Had a good victory at home against Brighton, and then everyone will remember the recent draw against Arsenal. So people will look at that and say they're in pretty decent form. Definitely signs there. Goal-wise as well, there is a few goal threats, people. I mean, if you look at that, not sort of household or the sexiest names, but Jimenez is starting to come back a little bit. He's up to 5 in the Premier League. You've got Iwobi up to 5 in the Premier League as well. And even if you look into their midfield, you've got almost Harry Wilson. You think he would like to get a little bit of revenge or maybe, just make his mark, if that's the right phrase. Smith as well with 3 there. So there's definitely goals. There's definitely threats in this team, Bart. And I always think back to last season. And last season was that 4-3 where we needed Trent right at the death, basically, to save us in that one. So it's not got the hallmarks of an easy game at all. I am intrigued, though, to see what are your stats around Fulham, anything worth carrying out or calling out threat-wise.
So I obviously you've got your F brief, which everyone can look at, and you can have a rough look at what they're conceding for XG. I mean, on their last few games, that's not a great read for us. They're 1.8, 1.4, 1.8. So just under 2 XG they concede. Okay, fair enough. Curating just over 1.5. So okay, all right. But if we delve into that a little bit deeper, if we look at what Understat predict in terms of what points what they should and shouldn't concede and what points. So Brighton, as you say, are 10th. And they're underperforming both defensively and attacking wise. So they've conceded 20 goals. They should have conceded 18.
Okay.
So they've been, you could say unlucky or lucky. Unlucky, probably I suggest. And attacking wise, they should have scored 24 and they've scored 22. So they've been unlucky at both ends of the pitch. Not by a lot, but just a little bit. And I would suggest the game against City, where they created a phenomenal amount of XG. I can't remember quick check what that was.
Yeah.
City. Yeah, they could create a 2.6 xg, maybe more. I can remember it being more than that, but yeah. So they created a lot of chances in that game and didn't convert. Brighton's points, they are, where are we? Expected points for Brighton. So they're actually 2 points down on where they should be. So yeah, I would. There's sorry, 2 points over, sorry, where they should be. So they're probably in and around where they are. They create a decent amount of XG, and they can shut down production as well. But they do have bits where they concede about 1. So they probably create about 1.5, concede about 1. That's not bad. It's just not. It's like you said. It's mid-table. It's what they do. They are coming off the back of a game against Arsenal, which was it 1-1?
Yeah.
Where they only created 0.2 xg and they conceded nearly 2. Now, yes, some of that was set play. Obviously, Arsenal only created 0.3 xg from that game. So, but that does give you a little caveat. That might be a little bit of weakness for them defending set plays. Yeah, so Arsenal are very good at them, but still to concede 1.5 xg from set plays. That's quite something. That takes something to do. So, and Arsenal are an incredibly defensive side, so they've shut them down. They've only created 0.2. So, yeah, I think there's some bits in there. It's at home. It's not going to be an easy game, but I would suggest if we play somewhere near our level, particularly where we genuinely create 2 xg a game, and concede less than an xg a game, I would suggest we should come out the right side of it. But you're right, they have got dangerous players. Harry Wilson does like to score against us. He's done that before. And the man up front is just sort of rediscovering maybe where he was a few years ago at Wolves. So, yeah, it could be a dangerous time to play them. But equally, we could have just got out of a bit of not a rut, but we sort of got over the Newcastle, ready to go again. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting game. I think they always are. I remember under Rodgers, was it 3-3 or 4-3 game? Anfield, there's been some absolute crackers of a game, and then we went to their place and got beat 1-0. I remember as well, which was some very big, very interesting games from them. But yeah, I think you're right. They are a mid-table side. They have shown they can mix it up with some of the bigger players. But it's interesting. It's interesting.
Will be interesting to see. And yeah, like you call it, you do forget. Especially that was intriguing to see that they are vulnerables, maybe a bit strong, but they concede a lot from set pieces. So there's that element, and you are thinking they do have their first choice centre halves out. So Anderson is injured and Bassi is suspended, so it'll likely be Diop, and I generally can't even tell you who the fourth choice centre half is for Fulham, but that might play into our favour as well.
Yeah,
we will have to see. The other one I really wanted to ask you, Bart, because it came up in a few of the Discord channel chats, and thank you for leaving me to answer all of those, because I know you're enjoying yourself in Mauritius, why it's about -4 here in Edinburgh, so that's absolutely fine. But the only thing that's coming up from quite a few people is, you probably talked about it, you and the Up guys, the phrase second half Reds. It very much seems like the theme is, we almost suss the team out, try and do things. It's not always working, as proved by Girona first half. However, you will usually see a second half change, a very specific second half change that Slot often 99 times out of 100 is getting right, to be honest. Have you guys, because that's one that's being asked, have you guys identified that trend?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at a lot of the bids, there'll be a definite first half, second half split or change. Be a shape in what we're doing. I think Slot is very good at assessing the opposition quickly and making a change. He has done it in half. So away at Palace, they started creating a bit of an issue down our right side. He made a change in the game, and we ended up getting a goal from a fairly routine play from the left-hand side. But so he has to do it in half, but generally speaking, he likes to make a change at half time to either, like Girona, there was depth and width. Yeah. And then you've got other options where he might suggest Trent to invert more rather than playing wide, or vice versa. So there's different things he can do. He also likes to play. So in the Champions League quite a lot. He's played Diaz as a false nine. So there's changes he does with personnel to say, can you go and do this role for me rather than this role? So there's different things. But yeah, so I think he's just tactically assessing what is going on. He's not hard and fast stuck to a system, and that's not a criticism of previous managers, by the way. Some managers have this is how we're playing and we're doing it. And you're just going to do it better. Wenger at Arsenal was a very big one. It was just, I don't need a plan B because my plan A should be amazing. So we're just going to do plan A better. There's managers like that, but Sly is very much like, what do I need to do to win this game? So I will do this to win that game. And that's why you get that first half, second half split. There's also something potentially in there about making the game 45 minutes. So it's a long season. You don't exert too much in the first half and you play in the second half. Or you try and win it really early. So there's two different ways. When we won the title, we went out and we tried to win the game in the first 15, 20 minutes. And then we literally cruise for the next 90, save energy that way. The other way you can do that is you can try and kill the first half and just play 45-minute football. So, that's something a long term maybe to keep looking at. But I think generally the moment, the second half, first half, is just him assessing the game and going, right, I need to change this to win the game. And he does that. And it's worked pretty well, to be fair.
Which does bear out, to be fair, what we're seeing on the eyes as well. We're never sort of pedal to the metal for 90 minutes, like you say. He makes the changes. Or if we are ahead, and I know you guys have used this phrase, that garbage time element, we will just manage our way through it. It's always looking at that bigger picture as well. Interesting, ladies and gents. Girona, solid, but not spectacular. Some good performances. Got to call out Alisson. He's absolutely unbelievable and he's the world's best. Some good stuff in the second half. We locked it down, even if Arne Slot wasn't the happiest. We also said Fulham, an unusual phrase, dangerous mid-table is what me and Bart's are going for. They look at mid-table, but they can strike. And there will be some players who would probably, as we know, love to get a goal on Saturday. So fingers crossed if we play to our level, if we do create the 2xG or around that's expected, Liverpool should take all 3 points, which is all that matters. All it leaves me to say, as we reach the end, as ever, is Bart, for the time, the analysis, the stats and the insight. It's much appreciated, pal.
No problem.
And ladies and gents, that was another Stat Me Up for Anfield.